Welcome to the Journey with the Giant podcast. I am Robert Prince, and I am so glad you're here with us today. If you're just joining us, this is a series where we explore the beautiful, personal, and sometimes surprising experience of walking with the spiritual giant, someone who's gone before us and helps illuminate the path toward our purpose in Christ. As I interviewed Lori to kick off this series, she talked about the beginnings of the book and how this practice starting in her life, and I'm excited about this episode because today, well, it's actually a little different. It's really going to be a tender story, a rich story, a little funny, and honestly, it feels kind of sacred because it's really about stepping into a space that's not just about the journey, it's also about the friendships that carry us through it, and even the friendships that form around it. And I know for you, Lori, this conversation with Julie and Sherri runs deep. And it honestly reminds me of the Celtic idea of Anam Cara that I learned about walking with my first giant. And that idea of Anam Cara is really about soul friends, right? That kind of friendship that just forms when you're not just walking together, you're really seeing and holding each other's truest selves, and letting that flow from who you are and just accepting it. And that's what I see in you three. It's not just shared history. It's really a spiritual companionship.
Wow, I love that. That is so right. That's exactly how I feel about our friendship, Julie and Sherri and I. This is a special joy today to have them here today. They've been a part of the Journey with a Giant community since the very first group. And even before that, if you remember, if anybody was listening to our introduction episode, and I talked about a friend who contacted me the year that I was drafting the book, and asked if she could also walk with a giant alongside of me. That was Julie, who we have here today. So
yes.
Yeah, we
Very
have
cool.
been close friends. We've shared our personal lives, but we've also shared our spiritual lives through the year, talking about our relationship with Jesus. And then in the last few years of retreating together, we would silent retreat together. We were on leadership to lead silent retreats. And now the Lord has brought us to this point where we have been walking with giants together, and Julie was the very first one to reach out to me as I was even drafting that book.
That's really cool. And so through the years, just different giants, but really that same sacred thread of friendship. And so I'm excited to listen in today.
Yeah, it's such a beautiful thing, and a rich piece of the blessing that God has for us is our giants and also our friendships, the people that walk alongside us spiritually. We call them soul friends.
For sure.
Julie and Sherri and I like to call ourselves the Abba Sisters. And when we started that out, we called ourselves the spoiled Abba Sisters because we thought we were God's favorites. We had to be. But anyway, Julie and Sherri, it's so good to have you today. And before we get into giants, I just would love for you guys to share a little bit about yourself and what you love about where God has you right now in your life.
Well, right now, we're in a new season. My husband and I, we're moved to a new area, and so we're jumping into that space of getting acquainted with the space and the people and building new relationships. So I've got a foot in Michigan and a foot in Tennessee, but that's where we are, and working towards retirement and just trying to find my people, and continuing to use my gifts wherever God leads me, and building new relationships. And it's a slow process, but one thing I've learned is to wait well through the journey. And so I'm waiting the best I can with Jesus and just continuing to lean into him.
Yes, and you have taught me that so well as we've been friends. I love that about you so much, and your joy component. Sherri is our joy bringer in any of our gatherings, so you'll discover that as we talk more. How about you, Julie?
Right now, I have started a nonprofit, and I'll talk more about that later because it does directly relate to one of my giants. And that's what I'm doing right now is just getting up and running with this nonprofit. And it's pretty amazing that God just takes it from me and runs with it. And I think I have ideas of how it's going to go. And then I find out, nope, those are not.
Yes. Uh-huh.
And my husband is also in a ministry right now. So we both have very interesting conversations at night.
Yes, yes. What a journey. Hasn't it been a journey, Sherri, to watch the changes in Julie's life as
Mhm.
she's in the last few years?
Yes, through
It's
retirement and
y- change,
yeah.
yes, so many changes
Mhm.
and quite,
Mhm.
quite a few of them related to giants, which has just been amazing. So what we call ourselves is the Abba Sisters. That's the name of our little friendship band that we came up with a few years ago. I think we started out with the spoiled
Yeah.
Abba Sisters, or because we were God's favorites. We just knew we were. So anyway, that's our little nickname for ourselves, and we cherish it. And we sign all of our emails that way, and with great things like that. So anyway, so good to have you guys here. Now, we're going to talk about giants, and I'd love for you to share how you first heard about walking with a giant and how it struck you in the beginning.
Well, I went to a silent retreat at Lori's house. I did not know it was Lori's house until I walked in the driveway and saw her there. I went, with our mutual friend Linda Anderson, and walked down the driveway, and I went, that woman looks familiar. Oh my goodness, this is a woman I met 15 years ago who was doing silent retreats, and I went to her house then.
That's
And here
right.
we are 15 years later, and I went to your property to do a silent retreat. And you started talking about a spiritual practice that you were thinking of and looking into more, and it really intrigued me.
Yep. Yep. How about you, Sherri?
Honestly, I can't remember the moment that you introduced that to me, but I know it was from
Okay.
you, probably when you were
Uh-huh.
taking your classes at the Dominican. And
Uh-huh.
I know I had taken a class too, and I think that's when we were just getting to know each other. So it may have been through that process, but I know I was
Yeah.
curious, and I do think that the one biggest, I guess, yellow light for me at the beginning was, is that going to draw me away from Jesus? Because I love him so much.
Yeah.
And I don't want anything to take the place of him.
Yes.
And so it was just, going to him and asking him, is this your calling for me? Is this really what you want me to be doing? And just, leaning into that, because through his spirit, you know, um, we all can shine the light and the love of Jesus and learn from each other. And there's always something for us to learn from each other. So, um, I jumped in.
Yeah. Yep. So you saw that in the aspect of we can learn from giants as well.
Yes.
Is that how you
Yes.
felt like the Lord was revealing that?
Well, yeah, I mean, we're examples for each other in our walk with the Christ,
Right.
and so how different would that be for somebody that's walked so close to Christ, that they have written records through their books or through other people writing about them, that we can
Yes.
step into
Mm-hmm.
that part of their life and see how God worked through them.
Yes.
So,
Uh-huh. Yep. And I remember a phone call from you, Julie. I was out in our cabin, our prayer cabin, and I remember getting a phone call. Do you remember that when you were asking me about giants?
Maybe spark my remembrance.
Yeah, so I remember you calling and just saying, "Hey, you've been doing this thing."
Oh yeah, that sounds like me.
Yeah, yeah. Do you remember that? And you were like, "Does that have anything to do with Hebrews 12, 1 and 2? The cloud of witnesses?" Remember that?
I have to resonate with Sherri. And I think I shouldn't say everyone. I think most people they think, oh, this is really cool. Oh wait, it's like almost like a guilt shame thing. Like, oh, we should only be studying Jesus, and
Yeah.
yes, we should be studying Jesus. But if we continue with that verse, it says, let every since we are surrounded by such a great cloud of witnesses, right? Throw off everything that hinders a sin that's so easily entangled, and fix our mind on the race set before us. The very next verse says what?
Mm-hmm.
Let us fix our eyes on Jesus.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's the very next verse. So once I read that, I'm like, I am going to do this, run the race with a great cloud of witnesses and fix my eyes on Jesus all at the same time. Let's see what happens. Let's try it.
Yeah, I remember that. I remember you processing, you asking those very important questions with the doubt, with the, the hesitations that you were having, but there was a hunger there to
Yes.
say, like, I'm intrigued by this. I think God might be leading me, but what about this? But then you got right in. Do you remember who you chose that first time you walked with a giant?
Yes, I had actually gone recently. I've been recently told that I'm an artist. I've been pushing it off and push. The last couple of years, I'm like, no, I have an artist brain, an artist heart. And I went to a counseling session with a art coach, and he asked me if I have ever read A Wrinkle in Time by Madeleine L'Engle. And I said, no, I've never read that. He says, well, read that and then come back to me. Well, turns out she's a Christian, but and I shouldn't say but, she's a Christian and she became a Christian later in life. She did not grow up in the church. And I was intrigued by that because I wanted to learn from someone who didn't have the, Christianese.
Yeah.
I wanted someone who was like, I didn't believe, now I do. And I knew she'd have some fresh insights. So Madeleine L'Engle, and come to find out, she wrote a lot of books.
I remember that. And Sherri, who did you choose? How did your process go?
Well, I chose Evelyn Underhill, and I don't remember how I came across her other than maybe Henri Nouwen, was a part of my life, and it may have been that maybe that's what led me there. But Evelyn Underhill, her process of figuring out her spiritual life was very similar to mine, in that she didn't have a very grounded faith when she was a child. And through getting to know her, I found out that we have a lot in common in some of the practices that we do. And she kind of brought a lot of validation to my practices. And she ended up at the end of her life being the most mature in her gifts, and she shared her journey through her books, and her process of spiritual growth through her books, and she has a lot of them. And I think I was originally attracted to her, some of her other books on worship, and read more of her books towards the end of her life, where she was more mature in her gifts, more mature in her identity, and she had figured out her passion and where God wanted her, and was running for it, and doing seminars and just going for it and teaching people about prayer of adoration, which I really connected with her. And that was her shining moment, the end of her life. And she was about my age that I am now when she wrote that book. And so it just really, a lot of different points where I really connected with her.
And I remember with Evelyn, how deep she took you spiritually.
Yeah.
Can you talk about her influence on your spiritual life?
Well, there's this thing is that you don't know. It's like you don't know what you don't know. And through the years of raising our children and being a homemaker, I did spend a lot of time by myself. And I did spend a lot of time with the Lord in that quietness. And He met me and empowered me to do some amazing things during those years. But I didn't have words for any of it. I didn't know that I was doing prayer of adoration. I didn't know, that the Lord was speaking to me in ways that people long for. He was giving me visions and, guiding me in ways that I knew His voice way back in the beginning of us meeting, because I wasn't raised in the church. And I didn't even know about God till I was 16. I didn't know anything about the Bible till we started having our children. And I started learning the Bible because I was teaching them. So, it's been a growing process for me to learn God's word and to learn how to be in a relationship with him. And Evelyn gave me, I guess she validated all that I had been through and gave me words to put to what I have been through and gave me a voice, to say, yeah, that's where I'm at, and I haven't been able to explain it to anybody. I haven't been able to really share it with anybody because I just didn't have the words. And so that's where I think, you and Julie and Linda have been so precious in my life because you understand those words. And if not the words, you understand the process and that relationship with the Lord that I have.
Yeah, that communion with God. I think you had it through the years, but Evelyn's experience and reading about that and the way she went deeper brought you even deeper in what God was already doing in your spiritual life, but even brought you deeper and continue that. That was a very rich growth point for you.
Yeah.
So Julie, with Madeleine, tell us about the shifts that you saw happen in your life. How did your process go walking with her as you were learning about her life? What did you sense God doing in yours? Just share a little bit about walking with Madeleine and the changes that came.
I love the word you used when you said shift. That is exactly how I would have thought of it. In fact, Wrinkle in Time, wasn't that a lot of shifting in the story? I was just sitting here thinking while Sherri was talking. First of all, we usually laugh so much we can never get a word out edgewise. We're being very, very professional. I hope you appreciate this.
It's a moment. It's a wrinkle in time. I think it's a wrinkle.
So, Madeleine, my first giant, actually, I did my first giant for a year. And then you said, hey, do you want to do this as normal practice? Let's get some more people.
Oh, that's right.
I want to hang on to Madeleine a few more months. She's not done with me yet.
Yes.
And I was hanging on to her for a few more months before I went to my next giant. And one of the things I was just sitting here thinking, she taught me how to love in a different way, I want to say, in a different avenue with different parts of who I was. Like, so I, nope, stop.
Yeah.
So like I said, I've been told by people, hey, you're an artist. And I go, no, I'm not. Well, Madeleine, I guess you could say, validated and/or gave me permission to just be an artist and go with that, because that's the skills that God has given me. She believed that everything that we did, whether we proclaimed Christ or not, everything is his. So everything proclaims Christ, whether the artist plans on that or not. And that opened up my heart. She was a writer, obviously, and she had this typewriter, and it took her many years to get published. So she had this typewriter and she used it for her writing. One day she said, I'm not getting published. Forget it. I'm not doing this anymore. She covers the typewriter and walks away. Then she walks back in the room and looks at the typewriter and walks away. And she paces back and forth in front of this typewriter. I'm like, oh my gosh, I've been there. It's like, nope, this is not what I should be doing. I should be feeding the poor. I should, sitting at a sewing machine is not what God has called me to. And she uncovered the typewriter and just kept going. And then God just started opening more and more doors for her to publish. So learning how to love in with that gift and skill. I probably thought about that for weeks before I could even read anything else. Sometimes I just had to stop reading and go, oh my gosh, I have to ponder that, because she believed love is to reveal the beauty of Christ. Love is to reveal the beauty in Christ, whether it's in your artwork or whether it's to reveal the beauty of Christ in other people as you spend time with them, as you communicate with them. It was a really cool, like you say, a really cool
Yeah.
It was a really cool shift.
Yeah. Shift. Yeah. And
And
you were even,
I never learned how to love, I believe, correctly.
yeah. Yep. And you were working a regular job at that point, I think in accounting, and kind of arguing to stay where you were at. You were hearing these calls to like, I feel like God's validating the artistic gift that I have, and then I need more time to do that. And yet, wait a minute, I got to stay at this accounting job.
Yeah.
And I'm going to stay for this many more years. But then what happened? What happened
Well,
with
I
that
was
plan, Julie?
I was the financial person and or HR person for a robotics company. So if you can just, wrap your mind around that. And meanwhile, I'm
Yeah.
like, I can't wait to get home and sew.
Yeah.
And I just kept arguing with God because I needed that money. And I knew the getting home to sew was not going to be money. So
Mhm.
I kept
Mhm.
arguing. But I finally gave in and said, okay, Lord, I don't know what you're doing here, but I'm going to retire, quote unquote. So I went into my
Mhm.
boss and I said, I'm going to retire in about 2 months. I just want you to know. And he goes, oh, okay, well, what are you going to do with yourself then? I said, I'm going to
Mhm.
sew. And he laughed like, I had this big boisterous laugh. And I went, no, you don't understand. I'm going to,
Yep.
I don't know what's going to happen from it, but that's where I'm, going to pour my life into. So, and
Yep.
now it's amazing what he has done. It's been
Yep.
3 years since I retired.
That was powerful. But it was also kind of fun to watch the struggle. I'm not going to leave this. I'm going to stay a lot longer.
Right.
And then I'm leaving and I'm going to do the art. I can't push it down anymore. I
Well,
can't.
and then I felt a very big impression to take 3 to 6 months just to sit and be silent. Now, a person like myself, I mean, you can kind of tell
Yeah.
my personality. I'm like, yeah, let's do this. And then let's do that and that and that while we're doing this. Right.
Mhm.
And he just told me, no, I need you to sit. So I would sit in my big picture window in my living room and look out. I have wildlife back there. Lots of times I have a pond and deer and all this. And I would just sit and just wait for his word, wait for his prompting. Sometimes it'd be a verse. Sometimes it would be just something from the past that he wanted to cover with me.
Mhm.
And I just spent that time. And then he said, I want you to go into ministry. And at that time I had changed to Elizabeth Elliot. Yeah. And she was from all purposes that I saw her very, very proper and full of the spirit. And she was the wife of Jim Elliot, who got killed by the Auca Indians in the 70s, I believe. And she went and witnessed to those same Indians and succeeded and became friends. So at that time, I was studying Elizabeth Elliot and just really got into who Christ is and who he is as a healer. She went back to the Auca Indians, witnessed to them, as I said. When she passed away, her best friend wrote a book about her, which I read. And when Elizabeth passed away, they were cleaning out her house and they pulled this shiny thing out from underneath the furnace vent. And like it was stuck like next to the wall. And on it was the label of the spearhead that had killed her husband. She had gotten that from the Indians and kept it all those years. To me, that would be, I would want to be as far away from that spearhead as possible. But to her, she embraced it as part of God's story, as part of the healing process. And that really struck me because I needed to heal from some wounds at that time before I could be free enough in my spirit to move on to do this ministry.
Wow.
And so just really use that spearhead as an understanding of you need to embrace what you've gone through, Julie, and you need to allow me to heal it so we can move on together.
Yeah. I remember you choosing her and saying, these two women couldn't be more opposite, And yet I feel this drawing to her. And then I remember when you read that about the spear and what a powerful analogy that was and how long God had you just sit with that and let him pull out those pains in your own life. Yeah.
And then when I finally decided to take the plunge and start this nonprofit, I was on Harriet Tubman, which is my third giant. And everyone knows Harriet Tubman just went for it.
Yes.
No fear.
Mm-hmm.
So
Do
So
you remember any quotes from Harriet that
I do actually.
spoke to you during that time when
Well,
you
she
were
believed
making?
she believed she heard from God everything that she was to do next.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not sure if that's really a quote. I don't know. Oh, oh, sorry. Such cool stuff. Um, she she just believed that if you were in the middle of the forest with these people that she was leading into freedom, she would stop if she felt like God said, no, don't go that way, go this way.
Mm-hmm.
And she literally said, okay, everybody, we're not going this way, we're going this way. Because she really believed that she really heard from God. She never questioned it.
Yes. So for you, as you were going through your steps of courage, did that speak to you? Did you hear that resonating as you were like, I feel like God's telling me to do this? I'm going to
I
do it.
felt like if she could do this and risk her life, and there's so many different stories. Some people say that she got 70 people out of slavery. Some people say it was, 110, whatever. That doesn't matter. The idea was she went back into danger
Yeah.
to do it over and over and over again. And if she could do
Yes.
that and live to be in her 90s, I mean, I could, try to start a nonprofit and see what happens.
Am I safe, little? Yes. No, but it was powerful. Those were
Yeah.
powerful
Mm-hmm.
the stones for you, for what God was calling you to.
Sure. Yeah. It's a great way
Yeah.
to put it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So Sherri, then tell us about, okay, well, you started with Evelyn, and then tell us a little bit about the two other giants that you walked with. These are all different years, so people understand.
Yes. 3 years in a row for me with giants. And so, yeah, Evelyn was first, and then Henri Nouwen was the next one. He was a professional, and college instructor, pastor. I mean, he had a lot going on for him. And he got kind of lost in who he was in all of that and decided to walk away from all of it and just see what the Lord had for him and gave it all up and decided to go to another country. He met Adam there, and there is a book that he wrote about that experience. And so him walking away from all of that made a great impact on me, because I had, before the sabbatical, walked away from the highest leadership of the church that a woman could go. I was an elder leading a church with a group of other elders through a spiritual direction for the church, and one-on-one ministering to many, many people with the deep hurts in their life, and got lost in all of that. And it became performance more than it did bringing God into the center of everything and giving people what they wanted instead of really seeking God for what he wanted for them. And so I stepped away. Cold turkey, just everything, and didn't burn any bridges, had a lot of support from the church and doing that. And so I really kind of resonated with him with that, just the stepping away from all of that, and just going after, who really am I? Who does the Lord think I am? And just going after that whole identity piece. I believe that whole year of the sabbatical and the pandemic, I believe that really solidified my identity in Christ, and just gave me a lot of confidence for going forward, that no matter what I did, it wasn't going to affect how much he loved me. It wasn't going to affect my relationship with him, because it really didn't matter what I did as long as I kept him in the center of it. People struggle with life as it comes at them, and they don't always have an example to show them how to deal with it and show them how to navigate it and get around it. Yes, we've got God's word. Yes, God's word has answers for everything. But I tell the Lord sometimes, I says, I just need somebody with skin on, just so I can really see what that looks like.
Yeah.
We don't have the giants with us, where they're with us in real time, but we
Yeah.
have their recorded stories and their relationships with the Lord and what they struggle with, and
Mhm.
their transparency and
Yes.
the way that they've been so vulnerable in sharing the hard things. We need to hear
Mhm.
those things,
Mhm.
and we need to
Mhm.
hear how they came out of it with the Lord. How the Lord helped them to
Yes.
get back into victory with it.
Mm.
When I
Yes.
came out, with Julie talking about being an artist, during
Yeah.
that time, I found out that I had some art skills that I didn't know I had.
Yes.
And that's where I went for the healing. The art
Mm.
for me became healing. And,
Yeah.
and it became a voice for me to speak about how God moved in my life in the silence and the solitude and the brokenness.
Mhm.
And the last piece that I worked on through that sabbatical journey was called Victory. And it
Mhm.
was all about God
Mhm.
meeting you in that darkness
Yeah.
and the steps that he leads you through to get you out of that, back
Yeah.
into victory with Christ.
Yep.
So,
You're so right that even the giants' weaknesses help us. If we just look to Jesus for our example, we can't see someone that fails, in Jesus. But if we look at other human beings and say, I'm struggling in a similar way, and also you don't have to be perfect to have to become a spiritual giant, to do what God's called you to, doesn't mean that we'll ever be perfect, as we see in the giants. So just seeing how God shaped you as his beloved during that year with Henry, and how that's carrying you through this season and forward is a permanent thing. Like our giants change us permanently in ways, which is just amazing. So I got a question for you guys. So there will be people that read this book, they'll buy it, they'll walk with a giant alone. How do you think walking with a giant within a group added to your experience?
Well, with anything else, I mean, as far as how I do life, it's like, let's do this. And then after 3 months, it's like, no,
Yeah,
I don't want to do this anymore. I
yeah.
think, I'm not sure. But when you have people that are waiting for you, and
Mm-hmm.
that's something that my art counselor said. I said, I'm really struggling with trying to figure out, what to do creatively. And he goes, well, the problem you have is that nobody's waiting for you. No one's saying, Julie, we're waiting for this thing. And it's the same thing with
Mm-hmm.
the giant.
Mm-hmm.
When you're not with a group, I mean, you can do it by yourself for sure.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But when you don't have anyone waiting to hear your answers or your insights, and you aren't able to hear other people's, it does tend to wane. And I will tell you the end, is it Finisterre?
Oh, Finisterre. Yes, yes.
At
The
the
final
end
chapter.
is
Uh-huh.
is the pinnacle of, oh my gosh, I'm so glad I did this.
How about you, Sherri? What do you think?
well, I didn't try to do the giant journey on my own. I
Yeah.
was invited right into the group, at the
Mm-hmm.
get-go and through the 3 years. But I'm an outside processor,
Mm-hmm.
and I need to talk. I need to talk
Yes.
about my experiences, And
Yeah.
my husband, that's one-on-one, look at me in the eye. That's our love language. And he knows that. So he will sit there and he will listen and listen and
Yeah.
listen.
Yeah.
But there's not a lot of feedback that I got
Yeah.
from him after a certain point.
Right.
It's just
Right.
you some people who can understand you because
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't get it.
Go find
Yeah.
some Abba Sisters or something.
That was, yeah. Yeah.
I'll
Yeah.
print
Yeah.
it.
And
Yeah. Journey.
so, being with people that, not only can be that listening ear,
Mm-hmm.
just to listen, not to fix, not
Mm-hmm.
to, give any
Yeah.
input, any other, to turn you this way or that way, but just to listen and
Yeah.
relate and,
Mm-hmm.
encourage and uplift and all of those things, that we do for each other as Christians. That's
Yeah.
what I love about the group.
Yeah. Yeah. So if someone's listening to this and they're curious about trying it, but they're kind of not sure, how would you encourage them? What would you say to them?
Well, I would say go into it prayerfully. I don't believe in coincidences.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're after God's own heart, go into it prayerfully and ask him, is this his invitation for you to go deeper in your relationship with him?
I would say when you and I started, you and I did it together, I believe, just the first year, just the two of us, right? That
Yep.
was very cool. But having it with the group really added a much deeper dimension, because then I got to learn from other people's giants. And I know some of us would say out loud while we were listening to each other, ooh, I might want to follow that one too. I do have a Harriet Tubman quote. Want to hear it?
Oh, yes. Yes.
Always remember, you have within you the strength, the patience, the passion to reach for the stars to change the world. And didn't she change the world? And she had it within her with God's help, obviously.
Yes. Yeah. What a beautiful place to close our time together with that quote. How powerful that is. So girls, thanks for being with me today. Thank you for journeying with me, for your friendship most of all. I just love you. I love you so much. So it's been great talking with
love
you,
you
and
too.
now to share this aspect of our spiritual journey. What a blessing. What a blessing.
Well, Lori, such a great conversation. I know for you, just conversation with great friends, and for me, just a fun conversation to get to be a witness to and to set in with. So
it really, I mean, the depth that we have gone together as friends and the growth that we've got to observe in each other and encourage each other and notice like what God was doing in that person's life, the nudgings they felt happening, and then say, you know, Julie, do you see what the Lord's showing you? Do you hear? And her struggling with leaving her job, and can I really step out as the Lord's calling me to? Or Sherri stepping away from ministry completely and watching how Evelyn shaped her prayer life so powerfully. Like we had her actually teach us how to pray in the same way that Evelyn prayed, the prayer of adoration, it's called. We did that once on a retreat together. We had her be our little speaker piece, our little teaching during the retreat.
Yeah.
So we have spurred each other on through the years as we've noticed God's nudging and shaping. So it's just been so powerful, and it's enforced to me and to me how powerful our spiritual friendships are, and to never go alone again. You know, don't do it alone.
Well, and I think even with you as the author, I mean, that just speaks to how this has become so much a part of you and how the book was released. I mean, if you hadn't had those early experiences with Julie and then Sherri and then a few of those other people, what would this book look like now? But also, would it even exist in the current form? And so I think it speaks so much to why people should really walk through this journey with the giant with a friend. And I know that could sound, hey, let's just be real for a moment. That could sound like a sales pitch, right? We're trying to sell more books. But we're not really, because it's so much richer. I can take this book, which, by the way, I have to say thank you for just a moment for my copy that you sent me. But I mean, we could take this book and we could sit here and go through it, and we're going to get some stuff out of it, right? We're going to, the Lord is going to show us some things. The Lord is going to reveal some things through us, through the giant that we choose and through your stories and even your experience. But the richness, you were talking about the reflection, and even Julie and Sherri talked about, and not to put normal Bible studies down, right? They're for a season and for certain times in our lives. But at the same time, the richness that comes from spending a year with a giant, learning about them, learning their practices, but also spending a year with friends, whether that's just one or two other ones, or a group of 8 or 10 other ones. They both talked about how much richer it was hearing people's walk with their own giants. And so,
their giants strengthen you. Your giant strengthens you incredibly, powerfully, but all these other giants are adding other components of strength that you need for your journey at that time. So it's the epitome of one puts one to flight and two, what is it? One puts 1,000 and two puts 10,000 to flight. When we join together, it
Yeah.
definitely illustrates that scripture. So
Yeah, it sure does. Well, friends, if you're listening today and curious about your own spiritual companion, just consider pre-ordering Journey with the Giant by Lori G. Melton wherever you buy books. Or maybe go ahead and order 3 and invite 2 other friends into it. And I promise that's not just a sales pitch. You are going to get so much more out of it. You can also visit lorigmelton.com to download your free sneak peek featuring the introduction and chapter 1 of Lori's book. Thank you so much for joining us. Subscribe, share this podcast with a friend, and keep asking, who might your giant be? We'll see you next time.